This is the BMW M3 sedan, and it's the entry-level model to the M3 lineup, which is not to say that it's cheap. It's still well into six-figure territory. But it does have a millennial anti-theft device, also known as a 6-speed manual transmission. Being a purely petrol-powered manual M car makes this a bit of a rare bird, you see, because BMW have announced that all future M cars after the release of the M2 at the end of this year will feature some sort of electric drivetrain, whether that be hybrid or purely electric. So it looks like this could be the end of the line for the traditional M3 as we know it. But when you think about it, we've done pretty much everything there is to do with the internal combustion engine. It's very old technology. It does date back, nearly 150 years. So I think we've squeezed as much efficiency and as many kilowatts as possible out of these cars, and the evolution into electric drivetrains just seems like a very natural next progression. And take it from me, having driven a lot of electric cars, going electric, you're really not missing out on anything, except for maybe the noise. This car features transmission assistance to help you down change more smoothly and quickly by flaring the engine, and it makes a glorious noise when it does it too. Now, if you launch this car using launch control, it can shoot to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.2 seconds apparently. I'm not going to try and do that on a public road on camera, especially because I fear for my safety, your safety, and the safety of my demerit points. But here's an idea of what it's like. It's not quite as insane as the M3 competition. It doesn't feel quite as dangerous as that, but it's still excellent. Despite being purely rear-wheel drive, there was no fishtailing, and that might have been because I wasn't flooring it quite as hard as I could have, but it felt pretty composed. Despite being tremendous fun to drive on the open road, it's not so fun in bumper-to-bumper traffic having a manual transmission, especially in Sport Plus, because this car just wants to lurch forward every time you bring the clutch up to the friction point, and you're just riding it a lot. But it is a very easy manual transmission to live with short throws, a very sporty, notchy feel to it. Not that I'd recommend learning to drive a manual in an M3, and if you do stall it, the engine restarts by itself almost straight away, so you're not holding up traffic while you're trying to get the car going again. The clutch is actually much lighter than I thought it would be too. It's not the heaviest one around. While we're stuck in traffic, I'll tell you more about the outside of the car. From the front, it looks pretty much the same. We've got the ever controversial large kidney-shaped grille and the beautiful BMW laser lights. Side on, we've got two wheel sizes, 19s at the front, 20s at the back. There's a few different styles to choose from. You can check them out on the BMW website. At the back, a small lip spoiler with a 480-litre boot with a powered boot lid, which is probably not really necessary in a car this size, but that does give this car some degree of practicality. The interior, exactly the same as the M3 competition and the M4. The only real difference is there's no wireless phone charging due to the chip shortage, and the layout of the buttons down here on the lower console has been changed a bit just to make room for the manual gear shifter. The dial here for the iDrive system has been moved a little bit closer to the driver, but otherwise pretty much the same. Just like the M3 competition, there is full customization available of all of the drive modes, so you can put the engine in efficient, sport, or sport plus. I like sport plus because it makes extra noise. We've got gear shift assistance, as I mentioned before. The chassis, the steering, and the brakes can all be adjusted to however you like them. I think generally speaking, leaving most things in comfort is probably the way to go, apart from maybe the engine, because around town with potholes and that kind of thing, you just don't need that level of firmness. When you go out to the track, of course, completely different story, and it's great to know you've got all the tools available to really get the arse out of this car and slide around as much as you like. Also, no paddle shifters on the steering wheel, obviously, because we've got manual transmission. The seats in this car, full electric adjustment for the driver and front passenger with bolster and lumbar support. The colour is a sort of a light ivory grey, which looks really good, but I shudder at thinking how hard it would be to keep clean, and unfortunately lighter colour leathers do tend to show their age a bit sooner than some of the darker ones, so it might not look so good in a few years' time. Rear seat passengers are pretty comfortable too, with a separate zone of climate control and 2 USB-C chargers. Under the bonnet, we've got the ever-faithful M3 engine, which is a 3-litre straight-six turbo. In this case, detuned a little bit down to 353 kilowatts and 550 newton meters of torque, 0 to 100, 4.2 seconds. Putting first out there up and to the left has meant that I've accidentally put it into reverse a couple of times, just then when I'm stuck in traffic, which is not ideal. But this car does suffer from the same issue that all M cars, and in fact any performance car that is a daily driver, suffers from, and that is it's a frustrating experience to own one in the city when you're stuck every day in bumper-to-bumper traffic, because these cars have so much potential. They want to go so fast and they can't when there's a row of cars stuck in front of you all the time. Just go to the track. So there you have it, what will probably be the final M3 that's not electrified in some way. And if you're looking for a new toy to take out to the track, which could one day become a collector's item, and you've got $166,000 or so to spare, I'd definitely think about getting one of these sooner rather than later.